Please ensure you have the following items. Make sure you have a sturdy and level surface to build your sauna on. Place down your floor joists. The shorter ones with the X marks are for the front and back. The longer ones with the angled ends are for the sides. Secure the front joist to the side joists with 3 2.5-inch screws into the pre-drilled holes. Place the center floor joists on the X marks on the front and back joists. Secure the front joist to the center joists with 3 2.5-inch screws into the pre-drilled holes. Secure the back joist to the center and side joists with 3 2.5-inch screws into the pre-drilled holes. Make sure the base is perfectly square. Place a temporary floorboard across the center to help keep the side joists in place. Begin placing the floorboards. Ensure the tongues are tight into the grooves and secure each to the side joists with 2 finish nails or 1 1/4-inch staples. Secure to the center joists with a finish nail or 1 1/4-inch staple through the tongue. When you reach the temporary floorboard, you can slide it in place and secure it with the rest. When you reach the end, place the last floorboard and small finisher board together before securing. Place the bottom back wall piece. Ensure it is flush and centered. Secure to the floor joists with 5 2.5-inch screws into the pre-drilled holes. Temporarily place 2 wall boards to get the correct placement of the front wall. Place the front wall starter piece and secure with 5 2.5-inch screws into the pre-drilled holes. Place the first front wall side piece. Ensure it is flush and secure with 2 2.5-inch screws. Temporarily place a sidewall piece to support the walls. Secure with 2 2.5-inch screws. Place the door next to the front wall piece. Ensure the wall is tightened to the groove. The hinges are on the outside, and that it opens in your preferred direction. Place the second front wall side piece. Ensure it is flush and secure with the 2.5-inch screw. Temporarily place another sidewall piece to support the walls. Secure with two 2.5-inch screws. Place the next back wall piece. Ensure that it is flush and the tongue is tight into the groove. Secure with two 2.5-inch screws. Temporarily place two more sidewall pieces to support the walls. Secure with two 2.5-inch screws. Place a starter sidewall board. It has an angled bottom instead of rounded. Secure with two 2.5-inch screws into the walls and 7 2.5-inch screws into the pre-drilled holes into the floor joist. Begin placing the sidewall boards. Secure each with two 2.5-inch screws. When you near the temporary boards, you can remove them and place them with the rest of the wall boards. Then continue placing and securing the wall boards. When you reach the halfway point, repeat the process on the other side. When you reach the halfway point on both sides, place the final back wall piece and secure with two 2.5-inch screws. Continue placing and securing the sidewall boards. When you near the top of the front wall on both sides, place the final front wall piece and secure with two 2.5-inch screws. Continue placing and securing the sidewall boards. Place the final finisher board and the last wall board together so they form a V. You may need to loosen some of the other sidewall boards to make room for the finisher. Tap out and down on all the boards until the finisher fits nicely and all the wall boards are tight together and rounded. Secure all the loosened boards and the finisher boards. Place the outer door handle at desired height. Ensure it is centered and secure with two 1.5-inch screws. Measure the distance to the center of the outer door handle and install the inner door handle at the same height. Ensure it is centered and secure with two 1.5-inch screws. Now peel the film off of the back of a sheet of ice and water shield. Make sure it is aligned with the bottom of the starter sidewall board and that the glossy strip is on the top. Secure with a staple gun. Repeat with the next two sheets of ice and water shield. Ensure the bottom overlaps the glossy strip of the previous sheet. Repeat the process on the other side. Place a final sheet across the top and secure with staples. Fold the ends of the ice and water shield over the ends of the sidewall boards and secure with staples. Cut off the excess ice and water shield. Repeat on the back of the sauna. Place the first piece of trim on the front of the sauna. Ensure it is centered and secure with 3 2.5-inch screws into the pre-drilled holes. Continue placing and securing the rest of the trim pieces. The smallest pieces will be for the bottoms. Repeat the process on the back of the sauna. Begin placing the siding boards. Ensure they are flush and use the provided spacer blocks to gauge the correct distance between each board. Secure with finish nails or 1 1/4-inch staples across the top. Once all the siding boards are installed, place a staple or finish nail in the bottom of both ends of every siding board. Repeat the process on the other side. Now inside the sauna, place a bench support along the back and front wall on both sides. Ensure it is level and mark the top on the wall. Place the wall bench supports on the marks and secure each with 3 2.5-inch screws into the pre-drilled holes. Place the first bench on the wall bench supports. Then place the other bench supports below, aligned with the cross beams on the bench. Secure the bench supports to the floor with two 1.5-inch screws into the pre-drilled holes. Remove the bench and secure the bench supports to the wall with two 1.5-inch screws into the pre-drilled holes. Place the bench back on the bench supports and secure with 10 1.5-inch screws between the slats into the bench supports. Repeat the process with the second bench. Now place the vent hole cover on the front wall of the sauna and mark the center for the vent holes. Drill out with a 2-inch hole saw. Only go halfway through to prevent splintering. Finish drilling on the other side. Place the vent hole cover and secure with the 6 provided screws. Place the vent board and secure with a 1.5-inch screw. Repeat the process on the back wall of the sauna, below a bench. Now place the first pre-assembled bench on the porch. Ensure it is level. Secure to the front wall with two 2.5-inch screws, and to the floor joist with two 2.5-inch screws. Then, one final 2.5-inch screw through the wall into the bench. Repeat the process with the second porch bench. Now secure the door frame to the front wall with two 2.5-inch screws through the open hole left on the hinges. Place the optional towel hooks in the desired location and secure with 6 1.5-inch screws into the pre-drilled holes. Place the optional sand timer in desired location and secure with two 1.5-inch screws into the pre-drilled holes. Place the optional shelf in the desired location and secure with two 1.5-inch screws into the pre-drilled holes. Place the optional thermometer in the desired location and secure with the provided nail. Your assembly is now complete.